On today's episode, I'm joined by Michael Bereslavsky, who is a serial entrepreneur who buys online businesses. And today we're going to be digging deep into exactly what that means and what that can mean to you as a business owner or someone just looking to invest and grow your portfolio. He's got 18 years experience in the industry with several hundred deals under his belt. So this is someone I'm very interested in speaking to, and I've been excited about doing this interview. So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day and this is Systemize Your Success. So welcome, Michael.
Hi, Steve. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. So do you want to just kick off? Give us a quick introduction to you and your business, or what you do, and what brought you here onto the show today, and what we're going to talk about this afternoon.
Yeah, so I have a couple decades of experience in buying, selling, managing, operating all sorts of online businesses, primarily content-based businesses. And my main company now called Domain Magnate, and we operate several small funds and help our customers and investors acquire online businesses, and then we manage them for them.
Okay. And so I'm interested in this for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, because I think diversifying your investments is a very wise thing to do. And so this is an opportunity to do that, to invest in a different asset class to what other people might typically look at when they're looking to actually create a portfolio of assets. So how does that work? If I was just an investor and really just looking to spread my risk, maybe come out of the stock market, so to speak, or don't want to invest in property at the moment for obvious reasons for some people, then why would you look at this as a opportunity for investment, and what are the potential gains, but also what are maybe the potential risks that you need to keep an eye on before investing?
Yeah, good question, Steve. So first of all, why this might be interesting. Right now, you can acquire a content business for somewhere around 2.5 to 3 times the annual profit. So what that means is, if let's say you have $300,000 you want to invest, and you can buy a business that will be earning $100,000 annually or more in profit. So on paper, these are amazing returns. You don't really get this kind of returns in anything else, any other kind of investment. But it's hardly a passive investment. So if you buy an online business, you still have to manage, operate it. You have to understand how it all works. So that's one thing. The other opportunity is you can invest in funds. There are different funds and companies like ours that allow people opportunity to invest passively in someone who basically has the expertise, knows what they're doing, and then goes and uses these funds to acquire a content business and operate, run it, grow it, and as they grow it, and then resell it for a profit.
Okay. Do the funds work similarly to stocks and shares type funds, in that you we get a sort of fixed rate on return, or is it linked to how successful the businesses are, and do you have a choice over the type of businesses that are invested in, or how does that side of things work?
So it really varies. It's a pretty new industry, so it's all sort of developing, but it's roughly the equivalent of a real estate fund, where let's say someone has a property that they want to buy and they think it's a great idea, so they go and find like 100 investors who would contribute a little bit each, and then they buy the property and distribute the profits between the investors. So that's roughly the idea. The biggest difference, of course, is that it's a lot different running a website than running a property. It's pretty straightforward running a property, operating a rental property. Of course, there are different things you need to know and understand, but when it comes to running an online business, there are so many different skills, expertise areas. You have to have a team. You have to be able to really do your due diligence properly. So it's a lot more complex in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know just from experience of running my own website and my own marketing for my company, which I know very, very well, that it crosses so many different domains and skill sets to be able to actually keep business promoted online. And I guess if it's something you do every day, then fine. But if it's not something that you're doing every day and it's not sort of within your skill set already, or you don't have that established team, then I guess just simply going out and buying a business like this, an online business, it wouldn't potentially, like, it possibly would work, but it's going to be a big risk. And I guess what you're saying is if you invest in sort of a fund, or you also mentioned about managed option as well. So is that different from a fund, or is that the same sort of thing?
Yeah, so for us, Domain Magnate, we have two options. One is people that come in and invest in one of our group buys. Group buy is sort of a small fund where people contribute generally between $50,000 to maybe $100,000 each. And then we would go and buy one or several content websites and grow them. And so this is a completely passive investment. The investor has no decision power, and they do not have to look at the deals that we acquire or sell. They don't need to make any decisions. And it wouldn't make sense for them to do, because most of them don't really understand the business well enough to make decisions, right? And then the other option is to buy an individual website. So for people who have generally more capital to invest and also want to own directly a business and be more involved in operations and how it all goes. So then we offer them an opportunity to find them a site that fits their criteria and then acquire and manage it for them.
Okay. So if you flip it around, look at it from the other end, other perspective, so to speak. So say if I had a website and it had traffic going to it and was generating income, I guess the first question is, what sort of income would I need to actually look at selling a site? Does it really matter? I mean, I'm thinking about things like advertising income, but also digital products and course. I'll tell you what, let's look at my example. So I don't think my business would fall into the category of what you're talking about, but maybe you good to explore the reasons why not, and that could then contrast it to what would be a good business that you would look at. And so my business is we have an online site. We get most of our businesses either through referrals or through our website. We don't really do a lot of paid traffic, paid advertising. And but my business is primarily a coaching and service business. So I'm guessing that wouldn't really work in this example. And so I'll put it over to you. Would that work? And if not, why not? And what are the criteria that you really look for?
Well, first of all, you can sell anything that has some revenue and some profits. If your business is profitable, or at least it has good revenue, there is a chance that there will be people who are interested in it. Now, if you have no revenue or no profits, that might be more challenging. But if it's profitable, first of all, that's good. If your business, if I were to look at it from a buyer's perspective, I guess the first question I would ask myself is, how would I generate revenue after acquiring it? Like, if you are now generating revenue by providing these coaching services, I would ask myself, after you sell it, presumably you will not be involved in the company anymore. Then how would I generate that revenue? And if I have a good way to do it, then I might be interested. Like, if I am a coach myself and I can provide the services, or if I know some people who are coaches and can do that, or if there is already an existing team in the business and I can simply take over it and continue. So the way I look at it is, the business consists of different parts, right? How you generate traffic, how you do the marketing and all that, how you find the customers, how you generate revenue, what the services you provide, and all the kind of internal structures in between. So if those can be maintained upon you living and selling, then that certainly is a possibility.
Okay, so if we look at that, pick up on what you just said there, and obviously this podcast is the Systemize Your Success podcast, and I'm very passionate about systems in business. And so a couple of things you mentioned there really, for me, set off not alarm bells, also pique my interest, I should say, because you're talking about things like when the business owner exit the business, how does the business continue to function in effect? I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm paraphrasing it a little.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at businesses, do you look at how systemized they are? Do they, and if you do that, in what ways do you actually look to see what's in place or what's important to you as a buyer when you're looking at the operations of the business?
Yeah, so we primarily focus on content businesses now, and our acquisition range is generally in 6 to 7 figures. So most of our deals are somewhere around $500,000, sometimes a bit more. So in those price ranges for content businesses, there is usually it's usually just a content website that's doing quite well. It has a lot of content, and there is writers. So you don't really need a lot of systems. What I mean, you don't really need a big team to manage a business that size. So typically you might have like one or several people, generally freelancers. And so there is not so much of a question of understanding systems. But occasionally we also buy SaaS businesses, and occasionally we look at e-commerce, services-based businesses. And with those, you definitely need some better systems. So especially when it comes to SaaS businesses or like agencies and provide all kinds of services. So we would certainly look at how organized things are, how optimized things are. And again, the biggest question is to see how much it depends on the owner, on the seller. So that, yeah, to see that the business would continue to function well if you simply remove the seller from the equation, remove the current owner. So if things are really systemized, then that's generally becomes a lot more interesting for potential buyers and a lot more valuable.
And do you think there's, from what you're saying, I'm sort of joining the dots a little bit, but the value of the business itself, if it is systemized, if it requires systems, and I think most businesses require some level of systems, whether little or not, or big. And I'm just thinking the reason I was picking up on that was I read a great book by Dan Norris called The Content Machine. And that's basically about building a content business and in effect of creating your systems and your policies and your procedures around actually getting freelancers to come and publish content on your site in a systematic and reliable and scalable way. And that book is so, for me, reading it like it's such a systems heavy book, in that it's just about documenting every nuance and talking about the white spacing, the font sizes, the use of language, the terms allowed, the size of the images, that every single detail of how the site is, the content is going to be published, is all in there. And I would just imagine from my own side, the systemization of the marketing of sites as well, or the SEO and all that side of stuff. So that's why I was interested to see that's interested to hear when you mentioned actually those sort of businesses don't require so many systems. So is that because it's the experience level of the staff in those businesses that mean that actually some of that stuff just happens, or did I miss the point completely?
Yeah, sure. Let me clarify. What I mean is, when we acquire these businesses, we don't really need to have the previous owner put up a lot of systems, because it's easy to take over and we know how to do content. That's what we specialize on. So we can simply put our system and apply that to the business, because there is not a lot of internal knowledge. There is not a lot of very specific domain knowledge that you would need to have in order to be able to manage a content business, compared to, for example, an agency that provides some sort of SEO services, or a business like yours. Like that would be quite complex, and that would require a lot of specific domain knowledge and understanding of the system. So from the buyer's perspective, the content, from the manager's perspective, from the operator and owner perspective, certainly a content business needs quite a bit of systems, but from a buyer's perspective, not so much. And for our different content businesses that we manage, we have quite a few systems on how to do the topic research, how to find the best topics to write new articles on, how to assign the best writers for each topic, how to follow up on it so that everything is delivered on time, publishing it, optimizing it, editing, updating all the articles, putting all the ads, all the affiliate links, and so on. And there is the whole team is involved more or less on each website, so they have to be able to interact effectively. So there is quite a few systems as well. Yeah, that's true.
Got you. So you basically, in effect, you are buying a business and then using that, the front end really, so the traffic, and then you're applying your business acumen, but all of your systems into that to use that as a marketing funnel in effect, or a front end. The back end becomes just part of your bigger infrastructure. So therefore, you're growing your audience by buying the business. Is that the kind of model?
Well, in a way, we don't necessarily focus on a specific niche or industry, so we are more like niche agnostic. We just look for good, solid businesses, solid websites that have lower risk in terms of organic Google traffic, and that we see we can grow, we can maintain. But in general, we can find writers that can write on any topic. So that's why it's not so important, but we do have some certain preferences for specific industries. And we do have the benefit of scale in a sense that we are able to more efficiently produce content and do SEO at scale. So it's easier for us to do it like on 10 sites at the same time, 10 or 15 projects that we usually operate, compared to if you only have one project and then you need to go and find different people to do different things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, fantastic. So if I was looking to sell a business now, and what are the things that I should be doing to get, like, maybe you don't want to give these secrets away, but I think it'd be very interesting to people to know, if you wouldn't mind sharing them, is if I wanted to maximize the value of the business that I am actually putting up for sale, are there steps I can take before I get to that point to actually increase the value, and therefore obviously get a better return on all the hard years often of work you put into actually building up a site or a business?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I have some bad news, unfortunately. The market is down these days. In the past 6 months or so, the prices for online businesses on average have dropped somewhere around 20-25%. The same way that the markets globally have been down as well. So it's probably not the best time to sell, but who knows? Maybe it will get worse.
The thing is, we don't know when the listeners are listening to this. They might listen to this in 5 years' time from today. Yeah. So you never know. It might be booming again by the time they listen to this.
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing to do before you sell your business is just get your numbers straight. Understand really well what are your revenues, what are all the sources of revenues, what are your expenses, sources of expenses, at least for the past 12 months, and put it all in a spreadsheet. And that will give you a pretty good idea of where you are, what are your profits, if any. If you don't have any profits, maybe don't sell yet. So that's the first step. And once you have the numbers, like the saying goes, that numbers speak better than words. I think there is a saying like that. It certainly applies to buying businesses, and then you can look and see, first of all, where, depending on what is your time frame for sale, which is also very important. If you want to sell immediately, then all you can do is just get your things together and then talk to a broker or list it on a marketplace or talk to some potential buyers directly that you know. And if you have a longer time frame, let's say you want to sell it in the next year, then you can take the time to really look at what can be improved, what expenses can you reduce, what revenues can you grow, and try to get the maximum value out of the business. And also, of course, systemize everything so that you can ask yourself, if I remove myself from the business, will it continue to function properly? And what are the parts of the business that might not function very well? So you would want to systemize those, or make sure that the potential buyer who would acquire the business would know exactly how to manage those.
Yeah, I think that's music to my ears to say that, Michael. But I think, like, going back to my example before of Content Machine, and that book really drove that home. I read it many years ago, and the level of systemization in something which on the surface seems like you just get a writer and they write an article for you, but to actually put that into practice, to, like you said, as a buyer, it's a great opportunity for you because you can apply your systems. But if you're actually running that business yourself, you need all these systems, you need everything in place to make it function and profitable. Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing I've learned over the years is the more systems you have, the easier your life becomes. It's like, and if that's the case, if I was thinking of buying a business, I mean, for me, I'd probably want a business that's not very systemized because that's my thing. But if you're buying a business that actually, as just an investor, as a add to your portfolio, then if you can see, like, the documentation of everything, for me, that is like for me, I'm a big process map freak. But I also need to see those process maps implemented, how they actually translate from just a diagram on a wall or a whiteboard into actually the business operations and how actually they're used. And so for me, that's what creating a systemized business is about. It's about dumping everything out of the business owner's heads, out of all the key knowledgeable workers' heads, to remove the dependence on all those key people. And then, like you say, if you come to sell the business, those people aren't required. So I guess it becomes a more attractive proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also a valid strategy for acquisitions. What you mentioned is looking at businesses that are simply not systemized very well, businesses that are not managed very well, and then you can acquire them cheaper and bring all those efficiencies and systems into place and resell.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually, when I was looking at your website earlier, I was sort of thinking, like, buying a business, you're sort of saying like 2 to 3 times profit, roughly, to purchase a business. And I was just thinking, like, what is it that if I spent a couple of years building up a business, to then sell it for, say, 2 times my profit, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. So what are the sort of reasons or the drivers, do you think, that bring people to sell businesses rather than acquire them?
Well, a business does require some operations, some maintenance. If you think of an online business in the same way as you think of an offline business, let's say you own a grocery store. It doesn't run itself, does it? There's quite a lot of things you would need to do to operate it. So you can certainly see yourself getting tired from it at some point and just feeling that, I want to do something else now. I want to put my time into something else, and I want to get some money to do something different. And it's very similar with an online business. People lose motivation. They want to do something different. They just no longer feel excited about the topic. And sometimes people actually build businesses with the intention to sell. And then they have this whole roadmap, and then, okay, this is the time to sell it. I'm going to sell it now.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. All right, so if we drawing to a close shortly, but I guess if you could give us, like, your top 5 reasons why you think people should invest in online businesses as an asset class.
I don't know about 5, but I'll
go
try.
for 3.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it's a rapidly growing field, and especially now since the prices have come down, the opportunities are better. And yeah, it's 2 to 3 times the annual profit. That's a really good deal in general. So this could be quite interesting. And also, when you look at it long term, like, I've started in this business about 18 years ago now, and there was no industry. There were no marketplaces, no brokers. There was nothing. When I was buying a website like 15 years ago, I would just go on a forum, I would find someone that owns a website, and I would say, what do you want to sell it? And he would sometimes ask me, like, what does that mean? How do you even do that? Is it a thing? And then we would discuss it and figure it out and do a transaction. And now it's completely different. Now there is this large marketplaces like Empire Flippers and Flippo that do millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions. There is dozens of different brokers that specialize on online businesses. So the industry is becoming more and more sort of more and more advanced and really developing. But I think there are still quite a few gaps that there's still a really good opportunity before it really becomes quite heavily consolidated and maybe regulated at some point. I think it's still one of these few areas that are quite good. And I think it's just a really good opportunity for investment. And additionally, I think for those that have some spare time that might be looking for an alternative career path, that could be a really interesting opportunity to look into, either learning to build a website, to build an online business that would make them profit, that would give them a good living, or to acquire a business that can replace a career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell you, one of the other things I think resonates very much with me and my values is that you can buy it, like I say, you can actually buy a business for tens or low hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it can be producing profit from or revenue from day one, and you can do that from anywhere. Online businesses by nature can be run online, and therefore it's completely independent of the typical, when you're buying a business, then you have to buy premises or the staffing issues as well. The local staff, you are open to a global job market instantly because it's an online business. You can run it from your laptop anywhere in the world. So for me, I love the why side of it, of the more than just, or the lifestyle side of it, more than just the sensible or the good investment aspect of the money aspect. There's a huge lifestyle opportunity. If someone's been stuck in doing something, stuck in their office or whatever, and they're just wanting a way out, then to me it seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic. Before I do finish, I'd like to ask my guests a few quick questions, if I may. I'm not sure if you saw these on the email we sent out, but if not, they're not too difficult. But the first one is, can you just give us 2 or 3 apps or browser plugins or tools or software that you use every day and you think you couldn't live without?
Well, I could live without any of them.
Give me a top 3 then.
But the top ones I use: WhatsApp, Telegram, Zoom.
So lots of communication going on then.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Gmail.
And who else do you think would be a great guest on this podcast?
I'll have to get back to you on this. I can't come up with anything on the spot.
That's all right, no problem. This podcast is called Systemize Your Success, but what does success mean to you?
I love this question. To me, success is more about balance. I think these days success is all about numbers and profits, and I think it's about balance. It's about having a balance, a life balance, having a win-win balance when you buy a business, when you do a deal, having a balance so that your employees are happy, your clients are happy, you're making good profits, and that you are not spending 12 hours a day working, but you have a good personal balance as well. That's what I would call success.
Brilliant answer. And lastly, do you believe you can systemize your success, and why?
Yeah, I think absolutely you can. It does take effort. It does take some conviction and focus, but definitely, if you do one small thing every day, or if you focus on one problem every day, one challenge at a time, then gradually you'll get there.
Great answer again. And I'm just going to pick up on that because I talked about this with my one of my staff earlier today, and we're just about to hit 100 episodes in our podcast. And I remember reading somewhere a while ago, I think it was actually when I was reading about Neil Patel going on as guests, and one of the things his criteria was that the podcast has to have done 100 episodes before he'll consider being a guest on it. And then somewhere else I read at the similar time, which why the figure stuck in my head, was about that if you're going to launch a podcast, you need to be consistent. You need to have the same podcast, obviously, but to be consistent about what your message is, consistent about the delivery of it. Do it every week or every day or whatever the cadence is of your podcast, and do it until you got at least 100 episodes, and only then will you see any return on it. And it's just interesting, like you saying about being consistent and doing, like, solving the problems day by day and keeping focused on it. Because only just now we're just about to hit 100 episodes, and we're now actually starting to see direct clients coming directly just from people listening to the podcast. So just to emphasize, I wasn't in any which way trying to pitch my podcast, because it's my podcast people listening to. So hello everybody. Just a really interesting point, and something that I'm learning more and more years I'm in business. It's all about focus. It's all about being consistent. It's all about doing what you say you're going to do consistently, and then sticking at it, and not getting distracted. So yeah, I really like that. That's all. I wanted to emphasize or agree with your point, because I wholeheartedly agree.
All right, very good.
Cool.
Our podcast is now at episode 62, so we are still way to go to 100. But I've certainly noticed that sometime I think like around episode 40 or 50 or so, that suddenly our viewership jumped up.
Yeah,
and I think it just happens with time, and people then go back and watch all the episodes as well. So I think that's just how it works. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we've seen two big jumps. Just it must have been around 40, and then around 80, 85 maybe. Just doubled over time. I thought, oh, it's a glitch, and it just continues. Then it doubles again. It's very interesting. So anyway, but yeah, so the growth of the podcast could be our next episode we do together. Cool. And if people do want to find out about you, tell us what your podcast is first. Tell us what your podcast is called, first of all. Sorry.
Yeah, the podcast is the Domain Magnate Show, and it talks about buying, selling, and growing online businesses. And people can find me on Facebook, facebook.com Domain Magnate, or just email me directly, michael@domainmagnate.com, and check out the different services and information we have on our website, domainmagnate.com.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, Steve. You too.
Thanks a lot. Bye.